Hi book friends, it's Jenny at Julia Baby Jen's Reading Room, and today I'm going to be talking about some books that I read recently. Okay, so we're going to do another recent reads video. I have 7 books to talk about today, so I'm going to go ahead and get right into it. I read The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I ended up giving this 4 stars. I really enjoyed this. So the premise to this, this is an adult, I would call it literary fiction, maybe a little bit of fantasy in there. And there are trigger warnings for suicide. But basically this follows a woman named Nora, who is at the place in her life where a lot of stuff is just not going the way she thought it was going to in her life, and things are starting to fall apart. She has a really bad, 2 days where everything just dumps on her at once. And so she decides that she's just ready to end it all, and she tries to commit suicide. Well, she ends up at this place called the Midnight Library, which is a place between life and death. And basically every book in the library is a different choice she could have made in her life, and what would happen if she'd made that choice instead. So the library is filled with all these books of different life options she could have. And the librarian says it's her job to go through and try them out, and if she finds one she really likes, she can just stay there and she can resume her life in that current life. So she thinks this is pretty cool, and she starts with checking out different, her big regrets. She had always wanted to become an Olympic swimmer. She was really, really good at swimming. And one was she was really into music and she wanted to be a musician. She was in a band with her brother and a friend, and that didn't really pan out. One was the man she was engaged to, and she ended up breaking up the engagement. What would have happened if they gotten married? Things of that nature. And she soon finds out that things aren't always what you expect them to be. She gains some things in these lives, but some lives are lacking in other ways. So it's kind of her journey, learning basically kind of what's the secret of life. And while she's doing this, the library is kind of falling apart around her a little bit, and if that actually happens, then she will just pass on. So she's kind of under a time crunch. So it's just really interesting. I love the concept of this. It went in a completely different way than I thought it was going to, and I love the ending. So yeah, I highly recommend this. I really liked it. 4 stars. Then I read A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is the sequel to From Blood and Ash. And oh my gosh, I was highly anticipate this read, and I loved it. 5 stars, flew right through this book, absolutely adored it. So this is adult fantasy, I should say romance fantasy. It's very, very heavy on the romance in this series. This follows Poppy and Hop right where we left off in the first book. I really can't talk about too much without giving away a ton of spoilers for the first book, but it was just, the second book was even better, I thought, than the first one. I loved it. I can't wait to read the 3rd book. Just really, really good. These are really good if you like romance, because it's, like I said, it's very romance heavy, but I also really enjoy the fantasy. The world building in this is good, and it feels like a very original story, so I really enjoyed it. I read Bridge of Souls by Victoria Schwab and gave this 4 stars. I love this. This is the 3rd book in the Cassidy Blake series. Cassidy is a girl who almost died, and as such she can see ghosts and can cross over the veil to their world. And her parents are famous historians, and they also are ghost hunters, and they have a TV show they're filming, and this takes place in New Orleans, and they're checking out all the haunted places, and Cassidy's along for the ride. Anyway, I really enjoyed this. The setting was fun. I like this the best of the series so far. Next, I listened to The Wickeds by Gail Forman. I listened to this on my Audible. It was a freebie. It's a short story in a series that Amazon has produced about fairy tales and different alternatives. And this follows basically all the wicked, evil stepmothers that you've heard of in the story. So like Cinderella's wicked stepmother, Snow White's wicked stepmother, all of those, the woman who raised Rapunzel. And it shows their side of the story, and it was a really fun listen. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. Then I read City Spies by James Ponte. This is a middle grade book following these kids who are basically spies. The main character is a really good hacker, and she gets picked up from the police by hacking into her foster parents' accounts. And she's supposed to go to jail, but this guy recruits her from this British spy agency, and they're working on a mission. Basically, she joins a team. Her code name is Brooklyn, and they go to Paris for this mission. So it was just a really fun read. I loved it. I gave it 4 stars. It did not feel middle grade, even though they were kids mostly that were doing the spying. It felt very adult, and the plot was very sound. It was a good mystery. It was a really fun read. Then I read The One and Only Ivan by Katherine Applegate. This was so good. I love this. I guess it's a Newbery Medal Award winner, but it's based off of a true story. There's a real gorilla named Ivan that this is actually based off of, this story. And it is made into a movie, I guess, on Disney, which I'll have to check out. But I gave this 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. So Ivan is a gorilla, and he has been raised in captivity, I guess. He's was bought when he was a baby by this one man who raised him. He and his wife kind of treated him like their kid, like he wore diapers, they took care of him. But when he got too big, the man created this cool space in this mall for him, and so he's been living in this mall. It's basically, they do shows every couple hours during the day, and it's a big like tourist attraction. And over the years, he's gotten some other animals too. There's an elephant, I think there's a parrot. There's just a few other animals. So it's basically Ivan's story. And then one day, this baby elephant named Ruby shows up, and everything changes after that for Ivan. So it's just a really good story. It's mostly kind of written, I would call it more written in verse, I guess, a little bit, but I think that's mostly just because of it's from a gorilla's point of view. So you're in Ivan's head throughout the entire story, and it was so good. I absolutely loved it. And then finally I finished Set Boundaries, Find Peace, A Guide to Reclaiming Yourself by Nedra Glover Tawwab. So I gave this 4 stars. It's very good. It's very just much an informational book, taking you through what different kind of boundaries are out there, what they are, how they can help you, how having good boundaries is such a basic part of relationships. And then it gives you practical things to do to help you figure out what you need to do in your life to create boundaries with who and how you can communicate that to other people. It's very, very practical advice. I really appreciated that. And it also has different exercises throughout for you to do with a notebook or whatever, questions to consider. It has a few quizzes in here to figure out what kind of boundaries you like to set in your own life and what could benefit you. So as far as practical application, this was really good. It gave a lot of information. It's a pretty quick read. I read through it quickly. So yeah, if you're looking for something like that, I highly recommend this. And that is my recent reads lately. Leave me a comment below if you've read any of these and what your thoughts on them were. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. And I hope your cup is always full. I'll talk to you later. Bye. What are you doing? Are you going to talk about books? I'm noisy a lot.